In this video, I'm going to give you a brief tour of all the task and project management capabilities in Ultimate Brain and give you kind of a gist of how to actually do task management in this template. Task management is probably the biggest part of Ultimate Brain. There's a lot of other tools inside the template, but the task management features are the most developed and you'll find the most features within this part of the template. So let's switch right over to our screen share here. I'm going to be using the Ultimate Brain demo, which you can actually access and browse at your leisure if you want to see some of this demo content. And I'm going to show you all the task management features. First and foremost, I want to point out that we have a tasks area on the Ultimate Brain homepage right here. And within these tabbed views, you have access to almost everything that you would need probably 95% of the time when it comes to task management. You have a today view that shows you all of your tasks that are due either today or overdue. And I'll also note that all of these views, if you mouse over them, have a description. So if you're curious as to what a view does, you don't actually have to go digging into the filters or sorts to get the gist of it. You can actually see this description just by hovering over the view for a couple of seconds. We have an inbox, which is a great place to just quickly dump tasks. If you don't want to take the time to give them a project or a due date, you can easily go through this on a daily basis, make it a habit of yours. We've got a week view, we have a month view, both calendar views. We have a scheduled view that will show all of your tasks based on their due dates in a list format. There is a no due tab, which shows you all of your tasks that don't yet have a due date. And there's a few more. I will also point out there's a recurring tasks area here, and Ultimate Brain comes with automated recurring task processing by default. So when you check a task off, it's going to go to done briefly, but then it's going to pop back up into to do because Notion's going to kick off an automation and you'll see its new due date. And we have a whole video on how to actually set up recurring tasks. So I probably won't go too much into that in this video, but I did want to point it out. So like I said, you can do about 95% of your task management from the Ultimate Brain homepage without ever digging into any of the other pages. There are quite a few of them, and if you want to get fancy, we can absolutely get fancy, but I designed this primarily to be simple and easily accessible, so you can run everything from here if you want to. The same is true for project management, and we're also going to go over projects in this video as well. So right here, again, on the Ultimate Brain homepage, you have a projects area, and the project section basically houses groups of tasks, also notes if you want to take notes, that all sort of are pushing towards a common goal. A project is a collection of tasks, a collection of resources, collection of notes that help you to get something bigger done. And you can see right off the bat, we are focusing on active projects in this active tab. It's the first one we see. So this is going to always show you any project that is in the doing status, which means it's a project that has some sort of end goal that you're currently working on, as well as projects in the ongoing status. And ongoing projects are really useful in Ultimate Brain. These are great places to put tasks that have to do with areas of your life that you are maintaining. So you can see here we have well-being ongoing. That's where I personally put things like my daily workouts, anything related to health, whether it be a recurring task or not, goes into my well-being ongoing project. Home ongoing is going to be stuff like, fix the dryer, or I need to order a new part for something that broke in my house. These are just kind of projects that represent maintenance areas of my life. They're never going to be done, and so they get the ongoing status. But by only showing doing and ongoing projects here on this active tab, you instantly see only the projects that are active in your life right now. If you want to plan out a project but you're not ready to start it yet, you can click over to the planned tab right here, and this will show all of your projects in the planned status. And then we have this board view as well, and this shows all of the 5 project statuses. We have planned, we have doing, ongoing, we have done projects, and we have on hold. Now you can also archive projects, which will send them to the archive page and get rid of them everywhere else. And that can help if you end up with a ton of done projects that just aren't really relevant anymore. But you can very easily, without archiving projects, just move them around in their statuses and keep your life nicely in order. Now, in addition to the Ultimate Brain homepage, both projects and tasks have their own dedicated pages inside the template, and often there are sub-pages as well. And I'm going to give you a quick preview of them. We're going to go over them in more detail a bit later, but after the preview, I want to actually get into some practical hands-on examples and show you how I might actually use this in my day-to-day life and how you can use it as well. But to give you a bit of a teaser, number one, I'll point out that all of these headings here actually link to these dedicated pages. So there's a dedicated tasks page, notes page, projects page, etc. You can also open up the global nav bar here, and you can go to the tasks page from here and under common views or projects from there. There is a quick link to tasks and a quick link to projects there as well. And if you open up the sidebar, command / and you say pin your Ultimate Brain copy as a favorite, you can always toggle it open just like this and have really quick access to all of these dedicated pages. So there's a lot of ways to navigate this template. If we go over to tasks, just as a quick preview, we have essentially an identical view of all those tabs from the Ultimate Brain homepage. If you want to just focus in on tasks, or maybe have like a link to a tasks view on your mobile phone, this could be a nice place to do that. And we also have a projects view here. So this is pretty much identical to the homepage, just as a bit more focused. Where things get a bit more in depth is these task views right here. So if you want to use, say, other layout types, you can go into the dedicated task inbox page, and you're going to find a list view, you're going to find a table view, you'll find a board view, a calendar view, and then there's a list of all your done tasks. So this gives you access to the 4 main layout types in Notion databases. Of course, if you want, you're always welcome to create additional views if you want to. You could create charts, you could create timeline views. This software is your oyster, but at the very least, I've shipped 4 different types of layouts in these more specialized pages where you can more easily break down things. I especially find table views helpful sometimes. If I have, say, a lot of tasks I need to process, going into the table view of the inbox in particular helps me to set all these property values with fewer clicks. And in addition to the task inbox, we have this view for basically everything else, for tasks that are due today or overdue, for tasks that are coming up in the next 7 days, next month, all tasks. And then here's one that I actually want to point out. Tasks by project can be quite useful because it will actually group your tasks within their project that they've been given. So if you want a single view where you could see all of your projects and all the tasks within them, this is a really nice way to do it. And while I'm pointing that out, I should also mention that in our sort of global tasks view that's here, as well as on the Ultimate Brain homepage, we have that as an active projects tab as well. Now this one is filtered so that only active projects, those that are in the doing status or the ongoing status, are going to show up here. So it's a bit more action focused, but for the most part, you're going to be looking at projects that you're currently doing. So even if you're on the homepage, you have access to this really, really useful view. And then going over to the projects page, let's go ahead and just use the sidebar quickly. We have again, very similar project view to what we had on the homepage, but here we actually have a few additional tabs. So we have a deadlines calendar, and if you set a target deadline for a project, like this landscaping project in our demo copy has a target deadline of November 15th, then you'll be able to see your target deadlines on this calendar view. And we have made it so you can very easily open any sort of calendar view in Ultimate Brain in Notion Calendar. So if you're using the Notion Calendar app, you can very easily open this up in Notion Calendar and see it along with your actual Google Calendars, which can be very, very powerful. Additionally, in these other tabs here, we have all of your completed projects. And then if you've got a project that was in progress, but you got to put it on hold for some reason, you can give it the on hold status and it's going to show up here. But again, most of the time you're going to be using this active view because this shows you all the projects that you actually have some active involvement in right now. Now, if you want to get a little bit more granular in your organization, there are 2 subpages in the projects page here. There's a by tag page and a by people page. And these essentially help you to just sort of plan out and move around your projects within, in this case, tags. So it could be areas in most cases. If you wanted to put projects and resources, you could absolutely do that. But typically you're going to be putting them in area type tags. And you can also associate projects with people. So let's say I've got a hire a contractor project that is related to Ivan Zhao. I could put that in this column right here. So if you are using the CRM capabilities in Ultimate Brain 3.0 and check out our people video for all the details on that, this can be very useful for just making sure that your projects are associated with the correct people in your CRM. So with that little tour, those subpages out of the way, which ended up being a bit more comprehensive than I planned, let's talk about some practical day-to-day use. How do you actually use the task and project management features in Ultimate Brain? And let's start with capturing tasks, the simplest thing. So the first thing I want to point out here is on the homepage and also in quite a few other places in Ultimate Brain that are made for specific purposes, we have an inbox tab. And the inbox, I've talked about this a lot of times in other productivity videos, is basically a default destination for tasks in your productivity system. And this is really important to have because sometimes you're going to be on the go. You need to say, buy a lizard. I don't know why, but you need to buy a lizard and you don't have time to do anything else other than record in your task management system. I need to buy a lizard. You don't have time to associate a project with it. You don't have time to give it a due date. You don't have time to do any of the other little detail bits other than just recording the task. And the inbox is made for that. It is a place where you can be certain that when you dump something out of your brain and into your system, it's going to be waiting for you to either come in here and check it off because you just did it and it was simple, or to give it a project. So if you want to say, buy a lizard, you can very easily just dump it in the inbox. And then later on, maybe you're like, okay, this is something that I can't just check off. It's a bit more involved. We can hit this little edit button right here and we can easily add a project just like that. Maybe this is a home ongoing task because this is just part of making my home awesome. I need to have more lizards in my home. Boom. It leaves the inbox and we didn't give it a due date. So we know we can find it in the no do area. There it is, buy a lizard. And if we open it up, we have a lot more capability here. If we want to make this a task with subtasks, we can very easily do that. And I'm going to cover subtasks a little bit later. If we want to make this a recurring task, we want to buy a lizard every single week. Probably irresponsible, but we could do that by setting recurring task details. And I'll cover that in a little bit as well. And then under here in general properties, we can add additional details. If we have a description of the task, we can put it here. We can add it to the My Day area, which I'll talk about a bit later too. We can give it a priority. We can do smart lists and context for GTD workflows, all kinds of stuff. But most importantly, we're probably going to be just giving it a project and maybe giving it a due date. So let's just say buying a lizard needs to be done tomorrow. Now it's on essentially the calendar. And if I go to my scheduled tab, I'm going to see buy a lizard scheduled for tomorrow. It's also going to be on my week tab. Boom, there it is, buy a lizard. And if I wanted to, I could open this up in Notion Calendar as well. Now the inbox is right there and it's very convenient to access, especially when you're on a desktop computer. However, if you are capturing tasks on mobile, I've got a couple of additional suggestions for you. The easiest one comes directly in Ultimate Brain. So if you open up the Ultimate Brain page here in the sidebar or just open up the global nav, you're going to find this page called Quick Capture. And the first thing you see here is this task inbox area on the Quick Capture page. So this page is entirely dedicated to helping you quickly capture tasks as fast as possible. And it's got a task inbox view right here, which is identical to the one we saw on the home page. We can also see done tasks just for reference purposes. We have a reference view of our projects, but we also have this Today tab right here. And this is a tab that is almost always going to be empty. And if we look at the rules, right here is the reason why. This tab has a filter called Created is Today. So it's only going to show tasks that are number one within the inbox. Essentially, they don't have a project. They're not done. They haven't been added to a smart list. And don't worry about these filters if you don't understand them. They're kind of just there and they usually are hiding. But it also is going to clear anything that was created yesterday or before. So essentially, it's always just this really clean and usually blank view where you can very quickly dump a task. And I would recommend, if you use Notion on your phone at all, to create either a widget on your phone's home screen or maybe even an iOS shortcut that launches this specific page. That will give you an instant way to open the Quick Capture page and brain dump a task when you have one come up in your life. We also have the note inbox here, so I'll probably cover this a bit more in detail in the note-taking video. But again, if you want to brain dump a note, you can do it right there. The second suggestion, and I won't go too much into detail in this video on it, but I've got some workflows for using your voice and an iOS shortcut or Android shortcut to brain dump tasks just by talking to your phone and getting them into your task inbox that way. So I'll have links to that guide as well as my voice notes workflow in the documentation page where this video lives. The next thing I want to touch on here is processing your tasks. And I've briefly touched on it already, but essentially you want to make this a daily habit. You want to come into your inbox and either do the tasks that are there if they're really simple, or process them. And that typically is going to mean getting them into a project. Now, if you are a GTD aficionado, there is a full GTD processing page in Ultimate Brain, and that's sort of an alternative way of processing your task list. I'm not going to cover that here. Instead, I'm going to cover what I think is a simpler way of doing things, which is just coming into your inbox, again, opening up the edit button on any task that is in there, and then adding a project. So installing dictation software on streaming computer is probably going to be related to some sort of project related to streaming or setting up a new set. And I'm not sure if I actually have a project for that. So if I don't, I probably want to go ahead and start planning one. And it looks like I indeed don't. So let's create a brand new project. I'm going to call this project Redesign YouTube Set. And when we go into this project, we actually have a task board and a notes board automatically. And the reason we get those is because if we look here underneath the blue arrow on our project's database view, we are going to be applying this project template by default whenever we create a new project in this view. Now, there's also a research project template that I'm going to cover near the end of this video. It's an alternative one that adds an advanced feature called polls. If you're looking for the polls feature, it's in research projects, but for most projects, you're just going to want to use the regular project template here. And now that we have this created, maybe we want to give it a deadline. So we could go in here and give it a target deadline. Maybe we want to get this done by the end of next week. And we could also add a whole bunch of other property values if we wanted to. Feel free to explore these. Again, hover over any properties that you're curious about and you'll get an explanation. But now I want to go and actually process that task in my inbox. So install dictation software on streaming computer. That is going to be part of Redesign YouTube Set. And now, whenever I want to work on this project, I can very easily open it up. And again, Ultimate Brain is built all around SidePeek, so everything is super easily accessed. And I get just this really great view of all the tasks that I still need to do, any that I've actually done. Maybe I get this done, it goes there. I get a record of everything that was done in this project. And I can also very easily take notes. So maybe I have like a bunch of inspiration that I'm collecting from the web, or I'm taking pictures at an antique store for props that I might want to add to the set. I could very easily add notes in here, and then I can reference those while I'm doing my tasks. And here's another little pro tip. If you open up this page as a full page, doing this right here, something I love doing, let's just add a note here as an example to set prop photos. Something I love doing is while I have a page like this open in full screen, by holding Option or Alt on a Windows computer, you can click another page and you can open that page in SidePeek. So usually I would be much more zoomed out. I'm very zoomed in for these demo videos, but usually I'd be pretty zoomed out like this, and I could really easily see all of my tasks while I'm referencing the note content in the notes area of a project. And that can be very, very useful when you're planning or you need to reference certain materials or notes you've taken for actually getting a task done. And that is really the simplest way to stay on top of everything in your life. Give things due dates, add tasks from the inbox to projects, and then on a daily basis, you can just go through your views here and see what needs to be done. You can look at your week view here, and if there's stuff that's overdue or stuff you know you can't get done today, go ahead and move it to a different day. Check your scheduled area here. Check no due for things that you know you haven't scheduled yet. And if you want to, you can very easily go into active projects and see all of the tasks that are associated with all the projects you got going on right now. So next, I want to talk about recurring tasks. And this is one of the parts of Ultimate Brain 3.0 that I'm most excited about, because finally, after years and years of us wanting this, Notion has support for automatic recurring task processing, which means if I set up a recurring task and I check it off, Notion has an automation that we have built into Ultimate Brain 3.0 that will process it. It's going to change the due date. It's going to uncheck the checked box, and you don't have to do anything else. It basically works exactly like it does in Todoist or TickTick, anything like that. So here is how you could easily create and then also process a recurring task. Let's say, in addition to this lift weights task right here, which is set to recur Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I also want to schedule a cardio workout task. So let's create a new task here. We can do it in recurring. We can also do it anywhere else, but I'm going to create it here. We'll call it cardio task or cardio workout. And if I open it up, there's just a few details we need to set. First, because I've created it in this recurring tasks view, it already gets a recur interval, and the recur interval kind of combos with the recur unit, so days, weeks, months, etc., to help determine what the next due date of the task is going to be. But first, I want to give it a initial due date, and this is going to be like a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday task. So let's say today is the first day I'll do my cardio workout. Now I can see the next due is November 22nd, which would be Friday. But because I want this to be a, again, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday task, I'm going to go ahead and set the recur unit to days. And then we have this special property here called days only if set to 1 days. And that's because it will only work if we set recur interval to 1 and recur unit to days. But I can go in here and I can select the specific days of the week I want this to recur on. And now we can see the next due date is November 23rd, which is indeed Saturday. So here's the fun part. Now, if I set this to done, the Notion automation that the Ultimate Brain comes with by default is going to kick in, and it's going to automatically set our due date to November 23rd and set our status back to do. Now, if you want task history, which is something I've shown off in some of my other videos, you want to actually get a record of each time you've done this task, there's a slightly advanced thing you can do, but it only takes a couple of seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it here before we move on. First, we have this recurring task with history template in the tasks database. So if you want to get a history of your task here, you can click this and it's going to add a view directly to this page right there. But we also need to enable an advanced recurring tasks automation that comes with Ultimate Brain, but that is not on by default. So I'm going to go ahead and actually set this back due to today so I can check it off once again and demo this after we turn the new automation on. But to turn this on, because we're in a task right now, we can actually open this as a full page, and then we can use the breadcrumbs to get to the task source database. Typically, in your template, it's going to be locked like this, which will not allow us to edit our automations. So we do need to unlock it. And that's actually the reason we're going to the tasks source database. But if we go to this little lightning automations icon right here, you'll see that recurring tasks simple is active. And then there's recurring tasks advanced, which is not active. So if we want that task history feature, we can turn off the simple automation, and then we can turn on the advanced automation. I've also, if you look here, shipped a couple of additional automations that will help with one-time tasks if you want to automatically fill the completed date property when you check them off. So you can go ahead and enable those if you want them. But for now, we're just going to keep this one on. And now that that's on, we can go back to our home page, go to recurring. And if we look at cardio workout here, we can set this to done. And once this processes, it's going to get the new due date. We're also going to get a historical record down in task history. There it is. And if we click into that historical record, we can see this is not a recurring task. It doesn't have these properties, which is by design. And it has a link to what I call the canonical task, the original recurring task that has all these settings. So you get this task history here. If you wanted to, you could also very easily create a chart that actually charts your task history. And I've covered that in my full Notion recurring tasks video, which will also be linked on this page or in our recurring tasks documentation at the very least. So that is how you can do recurring tasks in Ultimate Brain. From recurring tasks, let's now talk about subtasks. Notion has a native sub-items feature, but Ultimate Brain actually doesn't use it. Now you can turn it on if you want to, you're absolutely welcome to do so, and we're gonna have documentation in our subtasks specific section on how to do this in the near future, but there are various technical reasons why we don't use native subtasks. So instead, we have our own subtasks system, and if you want to add subtasks to a task, it's actually pretty easy. So let's open up this call Alex and ask for landscaping advice task right here. Let's say we need to break this down into some subtasks. We're not quite sure how to do this yet. So we have this task with subtasks template in the tasks database here. So we can click this very easily. And once this spawns from the template, we're going to have a nice little task view on this page. So from here, we can very easily create subtasks underneath this task. So let's go ahead and make one called get Alex's phone number. And we'll make another one called find my phone. So these are now subtasks of this task. You can very easily see them inside of this view here. You'll also see that there are now two subtasks related to this task in the subtask relation property here. And in the inbox, we can even see that these are underneath the parent task, and we automatically show this little arrow to sort of indicate that they are indeed subtasks. In addition, we have this little arrow over here, and this indicates that this is a task that has subtasks. So maybe this has a due date and it's in a view where these aren't actually showing because maybe they don't have due dates. You'll at least see this to indicate, hey, this is a task that has subtasks. You might want to click into it and see if there are any subtasks you need to do. Then when you check these off, they go into the done area. So it's kind of like the projects and tasks relation, just at a bit smaller or more granular level. So at this point in the video, I want to talk about my personal favorite feature in Ultimate Brain, and it has a lot to do with task management. It's called My Day. So if we, again, open up our sidebar here, there's a page down beneath recipes called My Day. And this is a completely redesigned version of the My Day page that used to be in Ultimate Brain 1.0 and 2.0. That was more of just a dashboard that sort of like rearranged bits that were on the original dashboard. This is a highly opinionated, essentially worksheet that helps you to stay on task and plan out exactly what you want to get done today. It's all about today. And we built this because a lot of people, myself included, can't always rely on due dates in a task management system. It's very easy to just say, hey, this is due tomorrow, this is due tomorrow, this is tomorrow. And you wake up tomorrow and there's a zillion things that you've marked as due today now, but you just can't get them all done. So the point of the My Day worksheet, and I think I'm gonna make a more in-depth video on this, but the point of this worksheet is to look at everything in your task list and to manually check a My Day box, which is going to put that task here in this execute section. And this is essentially your plan for the day. So if I'm waking up in the morning and I'm looking over my task management system here, and again, this is pretty much the same exact system that we have on the homepage with some additional views as well, I can go through and be like, yes, I do want to create that landscaping plan today. I think I can get that done. I think I can also rake the leaves. Not sure if I'm going to get the social media post done. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and actually move that to a different day. So let's get that done tomorrow instead. Is there anything overdue? Attend an optional lecture. I think I just missed that. I can't do it. Is there anything in my inbox I need to do? Oh, cardio workout. That's coming up November 23rd. Don't need to do that. And you can just kind of go on down the line looking through everything in your task management system. Buy a lizard. Whoa, why don't we actually do that today and get it done a little bit before its due date? Add that to My Day. And once you're done kind of going through this, you now have this execute area. And there's also a special page that is the same thing, just on its own. So if you want a more minimal view, you can do that as well. And this now is your plan for the day. You know that you sat down this morning and you were like, I'm going to only do these things, and I'm confident that I can get these things done today, unlike my much shakier confidence level with everything that was marked due today, given due dates in my system. It's just a much more deliberate way of planning your day. So as you get things done, you can check them off. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe you don't get to the raking of the leaves. Maybe you get the lizard bot. The landscaping plan actually took all day after you went out for the errand to buy the lizard. This doesn't get done. So after the day is over, at the end of the day, there is also a wrap-up section. And this has a few different views that you can use. So number one, if you want to, you can just totally clear everything out of the My Day section using this My Day checkbox, and then you can replan tomorrow if you want to. Alternatively, if you say, hey, I didn't get this done and it's still marked as due today, you can go to the review calendar, and this is going to show anything where the My Day checkbox is checked. So you can actually reschedule it and just make sure its due date is more accurate. So now that I've rescheduled it to tomorrow, I can go back here and I can click this Clear My Day button, and this will actually uncheck the My Day checkbox and clear it from this view, clear it from this view. And again, this resets the worksheet. So at this point, next day comes around, you can do the exact same thing again. You can go through your task management system, you can look at everything that needs to get done, and you can once again schedule things in the execute view here. So I'll talk a bit more about this in a dedicated video about the My Day, My Week, and My Year system. It's a full opinionated planning system that I've built for you here, but I really recommend checking it out. It's my personal favorite way to do task management in Ultimate Brain, and I think you're really gonna like it. The last thing we're going to cover in this template is a special advanced template in the projects database called the research project. So again, like I said before, by default, there is a basic project template. And when you create a new project in almost any view, that's what's going to be automatically applied. And for most purposes, this is going to give you a tasks board and a notes board, and that's kind of all you need. But sometimes you're working on a project that involves bringing lots of disparate materials from other parts of your second brain into the project because they become, say, research materials or swipe files or just inspiration, and you want to see them all in one place. So there is a pseudo hidden feature in Ultimate Brain called pulls that allows you to do this in a logical way. And the research project template allows you to easily use this pulls feature. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. In fact, instead of creating a new project, I think what I'll do is I will change our redesign YouTube set into this type of project. So let's open up this project here, and we can actually just select everything on the page and delete it. The reason we can do this is because everything on this page is really just some linked database views that are showing us pages that exist in other databases. So by deleting these views here, I'm not really getting rid of any important information. All this stuff is actually going to come right back in because of the relations. So if I go ahead and delete that there, I get access to the templates again, and I'm going to choose the research project instead of the regular project. And as you can see, we still see install dictation software on there. We still see our set prop photos note here. Again, that's because this note from the notes database and this tasks from the tasks database were related to this project. And these views essentially are the same as the ones we just deleted. They just show us those pages that have those relations but live elsewhere. So this project template looks very similar to the simple one, but there is also this pulls view here in the notes area, and there's this pulled tags area down here. So if we look over here in the property area, underneath general properties, we have a pulled tags property, and we have a pulled notes property. And I'd invite you to read these, but essentially what these relation properties allow you to do is pull in resources that aren't technically part of the project into the project as sort of outside reference material. So if we look into notes here, we can pull in specific notes. Maybe this strategy and planning lesson about Magic the Gathering is related to this project for some reason. So we'll go ahead and pull that in as a specific note. And now if we go to polls, we can see that this note is showing in our poll section underneath this productivity tag. Now underneath the project tab here, we're not going to see it because this is a view that only shows us notes directly related to the project through the project notes relation. If we go to polls, this is again showing us kind of like outside information we're sort of gathering from our archives. Now let's say we have a tag with a ton of research and we're like, whoa, this entire tag is really relevant to this project right now. That's what pulled tags is for. So if we open up the pulled tags relation, we can bring in a note, and let's just, for example, bring in this Notion tag, and we can bring in all the notes in this tag. And just like that, you can see all of the notes in the Notion custom DB example tag come here into the polls area. And we will also see the Notion tag down here in pulled tags. So again, this is just a really easy way to deliberately bring things in that are kind of separate to the project into the project, which makes the project page a sort of one-stop shop for everything involved. If you are sort of immersed in working on this project and you don't want to focus on anything else, this creates a sort of home base for that project and all of the materials that are related to it. So that, my friend, is everything we're going to cover in this video. We've covered task management in Ultimate Brain. We've covered project management in Ultimate Brain. If you have any questions, feel free to ask us in our support community. We also have a lot of other documents and tutorials in this whole website that you're on right now. So if you want to learn more about, say, recurring tasks or subtasks, check out our specialized either sections or full docs on them, depending on what you're curious about. And let us know if you have anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to get done. Thanks for watching, and stay productive.